So here we're told that a force of 70 newtons acts on an area of 20 centimetres squared. We're told that the force is increased by 10 newtons, and then the area is also increased, and that's by 10 centimetres squared. We're told that Helen says that the pressure decreases by less than 20%, and we're asked whether Helen is correct, and told that we must show how we get to our answer. So the question is worth 3 marks, so it's going to take a bit of working before we can come to a conclusion on this question. We're also given the formula for pressure, so pressure is force divided by area, and we're going to need to work with that in this question. So if we're working out a way of looking at how the two pressures relate, whether it decreases by more or less than 20%, we need to work out the initial and the new pressure. So if I start by working out the initial pressure, so if pressure is equal to force divided by area, then we have the initial force, which is 70 newtons, and the initial area, which is 20 centimetres squared, and that gives us an answer of 3.5 newtons per centimetre squared, but because the units here are going to be the same, because we have centimetres squared in newtons and newtons in centimetres squared, just because we're doing this comparison, we don't really need to work with the units in this sense, because they're both going to be the same. So there we've worked out the initial pressure, and now we can work out the new pressure using the same sort of method. So if the force increased by 10, we have 70 plus 10 for the force here, and we're dividing that by the area, which is 20 plus the 10 as well. So here we have 80 over 30, and that gives us an answer of 2.6 reoccurring. So now we've got our two pressures, we need to look at a way of comparing them. So if we're looking to test whether the pressure is decreased by more or less than 20%, we could take the initial pressure and see where a 20% decrease would take us to. So if I take the 3.5 and I want to see what 20% less than that is, I can multiply it by 0.8, so find 80%, which is 100% minus that 20% of 3.5, and that gives me an answer of 2.8. So a 20% decrease from the 3.5 gives me an answer of 2.8. However, the new pressure is 2.6 reoccurring, or rounded to 2.7, and 2.8 is greater than 2.6 reoccurring. So we can conclude with this information that Helen is going to be incorrect, because the pressure has decreased by more than this 20%, because 2.6 recurring is lower, it's further away, it's much less than 3.5 than that 2.8% is. So no, Helen is incorrect. The decrease is more than, as opposed to less than, 20%. And that is the correct conclusion here for this question. As for how the marks are awarded, the first mark is for calculating the initial pressure or the new pressure, one or the other. And then the second mark is going to be for a more complete process to make this comparison. So this step here, multiplying it by 0.8 to find 80%. And then the final mark is for this correct conclusion, so working with these two values here, and then coming to this correct conclusion gains us the third mark, as long as we've supported the conclusion with these values. There are a couple of different ways you could go about this question. You could work it out by working with the new pressure. There's lots of different ways. You could work out the percentage change and see whether this is more or less than 20%, but any way should bring you to the same conclusion that we've gotten to here.